Welcome to the Transportation and Environment Committee meeting for December 2021. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Esparza, Foley,
Here.
Corrales, Cohen,
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Since we have a quorum, we're going to get started because our reports today are lengthy. We don't have anything on item B for the review of the work plan. We also don't have anything for the consent calendar, so we're going to go straight to item D1, the city roadmap for regional transportation activities quarterly report. Jessica, are you starting? We can't hear you if you're the one starting, Jess.
She is supposed to be the one. Looks like maybe she can't unmute herself.
Gotcha. Do you want to get us going, Ramses, and hopefully...
I unfortunately can't. There we go.
Sorry about that. Here we are. My apologies. Yes, we are getting going and we're going to jump right in. We have 3 quick updates on the agenda today. The first from Ken Ronci at VTA with the East Ridge to Bart Regional Connector, and then over to Ramses for the Airport Connector, and then I will do a quick update on infrastructure funding. So Ken, thank you for joining us today.
Great, thank you very much, Jessica. I appreciate that. Once again, I'm Ken Ronci. I'm with VTA. I'm the Deputy Director in the Engineering and Program Delivery Department. And I have just a very brief presentation for you to talk about the East Ridge to Bart Regional Connector Project. So first slide, please. So I'll provide just a really quick overview of the project just to orient the group here about the project. It's a 2.5-mile extension of light rail from the current end of the line at Alum Rock platform to the East Ridge Transit Center. It uses Capitol Expressway. It's an aerial guideway, the entire stretch. That's important because it's done that way to maximize light rail operations and to minimize the impact to the community. So that being the background, I wanted to highlight the current activities. We are in the throes of final engineering. We actually expect in the January timeframe to be done with all of the final PS&E, the plan specs and estimates. What that means is that we should be ready to advertise as early as summer 2022 for the large light rail construction package. Do want to highlight that there are a couple requirements for funding to make that happen. Most significantly, the project requires $130 million of RM3 funding, and as the city is probably aware, this is currently in being challenged, and so we expect to hopefully get a favorable resolution of that, but we will not be able to advertise until that becomes approved. So I just wanted to highlight that. Also wanted to highlight an important thing for us is that the City of San Jose is helping us as the special coordinator for our artwork. And we have selected artists to lead the campaign for EBRC enhancements. So we're very happy about that. And so we appreciate the city's collaboration there and want to report on that good news. And then utility relocation is underway. So next slide, please. This is really the most significant part of the project activity now. It's the utility relocation. And this slide just shows a quick overview to orient the panel here about what is the scope of the utility work. There are 2 colors illustrate 2 different types of utility relocation. The red is this litany of clusters of regular underground engineering that we're used to seeing, but the blue is pretty significant. The blue is the electrical transmission lines that's being relocated. So on the next slide, we'll talk about the status for that. And so the status is that the blue area that was shown for the transmission line is in construction. It started here actually in November, December timeframe. The poles are already installed. All the foundations are done, and we're getting ready now to move some of the wire. That's the good news. The bad news is, and you probably heard about it, there was some tree removal because of this relocation. PG&E does not allow any trees underneath their transmission line, so we did remove trees. They all will be mitigated. They will be mitigated in the area within a half-a-mile range of the corridor, and they'll be mitigated into an increased ratio. So more trees will be installed than were taken out, but I did want to highlight that, that we did have to take out some trees, and we are going to mitigate that. Another major activity is San Jose water work will begin. So that's an underground water line, mainly at the area of Story and Capitol Expressway. That work began here in November, and that'll continue for several months. And then there's a little clusters of some of the communications and electrical and gas relocation. That'll start mid-2022. The next slide shows just some of the construction activity. And if you were to go out there today, these holes are now filled in with concrete and poles have been attached. And so when we say that this electrical transmission line is in construction, you'll start to see the wires being moved here in the near future. And this is good news because not only are we removing a conflict with the light rail extension, we think it's a beautification project. We think it helps the communities in general. It's actually taking an electrical transmission line out of the median of Capitol Expressway, moving it to one side of the expressway, the east side, taking out the lattice columns, these big lattice towers, and making them poles. So on its own, it even has a value. So we're happy and proud about that. Next slide. So the other thing I wanted to highlight is the community outreach. We are doing our regular outreach activities, but I wanted to highlight this last bullet. The EBRC project does have a stakeholder working group, SWG. We meet every other month. The last one we had was here in November, and we've been talking about things with that group, like what is the traffic impacts, how we're mitigating traffic impacts, what's required to build the project, what the noise and vibration impacts are, and how we're going to be mitigating and monitoring those. And it's been a very valuable group. So it's about 12 members from the community. They've been providing good input, and it's our way of making sure that we're being extremely transparent and that we're getting input from active participants in the community so it can help shape our work and how we communicate to the community. Now, my last slide is going to just highlight the schedule and cost breakdown. And so the top part shows the relationship between the property acquisition, utility work, and the engineering. And then we did show on that lower right-hand item there that dashed line, we're going to be paused, like I said before, postured and ready to award a construction sometime next year, but that is pending RM3 funding and other funding availability. And then the bottom part does show the breakdown of the different funding components. And as you'll note, the most significant outstanding item is the RM3 money. And then there is some other funding sources in the tune of about $29 million that we need to secure as well. And that with that in place, we'll then be able to advertise the contract. We're hoping as soon as late next year. Those things pending approval. So with that, I'll wrap up my brief presentation. And Jessica, I'm available for any questions if there are any.
Absolutely. Thank you. If it is all right with the chair and the committee, we are going to go straight into the next presentation, and then I'll be here for questions. All right. So Ramses.
All right. Excuse me, Chair and committee. Thanks for your time. Ramses Madhu, Division Manager of Planning, Policy, and Sustainability. I'll be talking about the San Jose Airport Connector Project. Here is a picture that comes out of the DEC process, or the DEC process is the Duradon Integrated Station Concept Plan. And it shows the airport connector pin there, just right off Santa Clara Street, across from SAP Center. We're moving forward on designing this project, or not designing this project, getting this project up and moving, particularly the procurement process. So I'm going to talk about that. Next slide, please. So situating this project in the overall goals of transportation for the city, as this committee in particular has been following, we're very close to getting the access and mobility plan done, which is the citywide transportation plan. This plan has brought together all of the various goals and policies from the city around transportation and boiled them down to these 9 main goals. This project in particular fits under less driving, access for all, enjoyable transportation, plan for the future, and clean the air, among other things as well, but really fits incredibly well with where we're trying to go from a larger perspective in transportation. Next slide, please. In the Access Mobility Plan, there are strategies that we're trying to implement or will be proposing to implement that progress those goals, and transit is a huge piece of that. We know that transit is going to need to take a much larger role in our transportation system. And so this project fits squarely in that strategy 11 of transit expansion. Yeah, we're hoping to see it all go through. Next slide, please. So what have we done so far? Of course, this project was brought together all the way back in Measure A. It was the number 2 most popular project in that list of projects. We've been fortunate to get some funding from it to progress the project from there. Since 2000, there's been a host of alignment and technical studies, as well as technology studies, to kind of figure out what's the best location for the route, what really needs to be connected, and then what approaches might we take. Most significant in this conversation is the 2017 study that showed that a link between the airport and Duradon is really the most advantageous in terms of creating ridership and connecting as much of our transit infrastructure as possible. And of course, with Bart coming, all the light rail connections that are there, bus connections, and the future high-speed rail, not to mention Caltrain, it really shows itself off as the most viable one. So taking that alignment piece and some earlier suggestions from tech studies, the city went out in 2019 with a request for information and got a pretty healthy response back from the market, and really learned that new transit technologies are coming and are just about ready for market. And so we brought all that information back to council and got direction to explore new transit technologies and business options, in particular to look for a way to allow private groups to come in and play a bigger role in transit. So with that direction, we are starting to develop a request for proposal. One thing I shouldn't miss is this project was adopted along with the Plan Bay Area 2050 a couple months ago, and does have a $500 million tag in that plan, which of course isn't real money until something can fit through it, but it's a nice big pipe that we can go hit federal and state money for to get this done. And so we've in effect created now a P3 model to approach this. And we're currently developing the request for proposals. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Next slide. All right. We've been doing a lot of outreach and getting the news out there. Of course, the RFI itself, a lot of press releases and a lot of media coverage has also happened in many of the local, both news and video press. And I'll say at the bottom here, we say begin public outreach. We've actually already gone through a round of public outreach to get out there and get folks who are neighbors to the potential project. And by that, I mean really the community who may be affected by this positively or negatively, as well as all the landholders. So talking to folks like Google and SAP Center and Boston Properties and the Target property and all of these things that could be along in the alignment here. And we also had a very successful industry day. This is where we invite all those who may be interested in bidding on this project. We had over 150 people show up there. And we've had continuous, at least two a week, usually more, meetings with potential bidders to kind of get some good group thinking going around how to make that work. Next slide, please. So what are we really trying to accomplish with this project? Well, this project really started from a larger thesis of we need more transit. And to get more transit, we need to find ways to make transit development cheaper and faster. And so we're really trying to figure out not only, innovation for innovation's sake is a fool's errand, right? And that's just spending money for no reason. And we're really trying to figure out how do we use technology innovation, business approach, and project management approaches to significantly reduce project development costs, hopefully construction costs, O&M costs, and as well as project delivery timeframe. The map here on the right side shows two areas, one highlighted in red and one in yellow. These are our search spaces, we call them. This is where the eventual route will be found within. We're not trying to say exactly where we'll be within these areas just yet. We'll be working with our eventual successful bidder to get into that. Next slide, please. So yeah, what is the project really? What are we really going to get into? The main portion of this project really is that integration of Duradon and the airport as a single facility from the passenger's perspective. This means we're connecting Terminal B around where the southwest baggage claim is down to Duradon Station, somewhere in that search space map like we showed a minute ago. We are putting an option in there for inner airport connector services. So this would get us out to the parking garage, Terminal A, and potentially other places within the airport, including the employee buildings down on the further southern end of the strip. And then we're really making sure that the technology that we select and the approach we select is not so specific to an airport that it couldn't be expanded. And again, we're really interested in seeing if we can expand this, if we can show that we can do transit building faster and cheaper. We really hope that this can then be an example for future use in other contexts, in particular Stevens Creek, where we've also been successful in getting some attention and Plan Bay Area 2050 adoption of that project. Next slide, please. All right, so what's our kind of overall approach here, right? So one, we really want to find the right long-term private sector partner. The kind of contract we're going to be writing with this project is a long-term, it's a design, build, finance, operate, and maintain contract. In essence, we will be franchising the right to run a service. And so this is really about a long-term partner who will be able to hold onto this project and run it for an extended period of time. We're thinking 2 to 3 decades is roughly the time frame, if not longer. We really want to be the right public sector partner. So we're doing a lot of work in terms of how we structure our approach to the project, in terms of project management, in terms of information, making everything as open as possible. If you check out the project website, you can see everything. All of our public outreach meetings are recorded and posted, including the ones the big one we did with developers, putting as much information out there as possible, but also setting ourselves up to be able to help shepherd this project without undue burden from our end. And then really want to leverage the favorable conditions that are happening right now, right? With 2030 pledge for zero emissions from the city to the federal infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, to state focus on transit and multimodalism. All signs are pointing in a certain direction that could really favor this project. So we really want to use all of that. Next slide, please. So our anticipated delivery model, we're going to a request for proposal early next year, and that will be for a pre-development agreement. And so this is a little bit different than we're used to in the city of San Jose. What we'll be doing is bringing in the private partner at the very beginning of the project. And we will, in essence, take that search map and the parameters that council and the public give us and say, let's develop this project now. And the point of this is it gives us a great leg up in terms of designing and developing the project with those who are actually going to be building it from day one, versus a lot of what happens in the public sector project development, where we design and estimate costs and all of that before we really get into some of the deeper elements that we need to know to really do that. So really excited about that. What's also great about this is that we bring in all of that know-how, all that innovation that's happening out there right into the project definition. And it transfers a lot of the risk that usually the public takes over to the private sector. And so we're really fashioning this different way. We'll see early next year, we will be bringing ordinance to council for your consideration that will authorize this form of procurement. It is not totally clear if our current procurement rules allow it, so we're going to make sure it's all buttoned up, and so y'all can consider it at that point. And of course, most importantly, we're also trying to minimize public funding. We do expect a good amount of public funding, but nowhere near the total cost of the project. As well as the kind of overall level of cost for the project should be going down. Next slide, please. All right, quick schedule here. We are very quickly developing this RFP. We expect to release it Q1 next year, calendar Q1 next year. We'll be then selecting preferred bidders in Q2, and then bring to council our recommendation of the top 2 bidders. At that point, if we feel like there's 2 that really are the top, there's one, that's fine. We can come back with 1. But we're expecting 2. We'll then spend 3 to 6 months doing some deeper validation of those top 2, and then expect to select a final firm probably by the end of next year. And at that point, we'll enter into an 18 to 24 month design and environmental sprint to get this all up, ready, and going. Next slide, please.
All right. Thank you very much, Ramses. Both Ramses and Ken have mentioned just how important funding is to the success of these projects. So I'm Jessica Zank, Deputy Director for the Department of Transportation, and I'm going to give you an update on the infrastructure funding work that we're seeing at both the federal and the state level. First, and we'll spend the most time on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, because that just passed and there's a lot of information out there about how we can make the most of that. And then we hope the Build Back Better Act comes into play. We know that at the state level, we've had a significant historic climate package that's starting to take shape that was approved last year. And we hope for a similar transportation package in the coming year. So with that, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was signed into law by President Biden on November 15th. So just less than a month ago. This authorizes over $1 trillion in spending over 5 years. And nearly half of that is actually new spending. I'll take a moment on that. There are different infrastructure provisions within this bill: transportation, water, energy, broadband, recycling. All of these different elements are put together. The surface transportation portions, however, are the biggest, and they build upon what is a typical 5-year surface transportation investment program. The previous surface transportation bill was the FAST Act. And so in the coming slides, you'll see a few different comparisons to how the funding levels across different programs compare in this new bill as compared to the FAST Act. So first up, we're going to take a look at some of the components, the surface transportation components that are existing programs that are getting more funding as a result of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. I'm not going to go through all these, but what's important to know precisely is that these types of programs exist, that they, in many cases, are significant growth in resources for this type of work. than the previous ones. And the other thing to note that's really helpful in this information that our colleagues at Holland and Knight helped put together is that these programs, the existing ones and the new ones, some of them are by formula to things like the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, or the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization. But one thing I do want this committee and the City Council to know very clearly is none of these programs flow directly to the city. We need to apply for all of them, whether we apply to the region, to the state, or to the feds. We apply for all of these fundings as a city. So that's probably something I'll say at least 3 times during this presentation, because it is very important for our strategy about how we approach this funding. But you'll see that there's money in here for active transportation. There's money in here for safety. There's money that comprises our congestion management programs from the federal government. There's money here for freight and highway programs through the infra program. And there's also competitive programs like the RAISE grants that build upon what we formerly knew as either Tiger or Build Money. So those are some of the existing programs. There are also a host of new programs authorized by this Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And we're monitoring these especially closely because these are going to be created, right? The guidelines for these don't exist yet. And so we will be providing our input directly to our colleagues in DC, as well as through our lobbyists to try to shape these programs in ways that they really match up with our priorities as a city. Only call attention to the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program, because this is the first time that we've seen the federal government invest in Vision Zero improvements. So that's very exciting to see. Again, you'll see things like local governments eligible. That means we are eligible to compete. So we definitely are looking forward to those opportunities and we'll be pursuing them. Reconnecting Communities is another emphasis of this administration. And you can see that in some of these grant programs that are coming up, as well as more funding for railroad crossing elimination, which is something that's a priority across different parts of San Jose. There is also a fair bit of new and renewed emphasis on bridges, which is terrific news for us and for many jurisdictions who have been trying to prioritize and keep our bridges in reasonable repair without a lot of federal support. So between the formula programs that we will apply to the state for funding for, or some new competitive grant programs that we can apply directly to the federal government for, there's a real opportunity to make meaningful progress on the bridges that have not been maintained to their full potential in recent years. All right. With that, I'm going to move forward to the key transit provisions. Of course, we will not be applying directly for these, but it's very important for our priorities, especially working with VTA and others throughout the region, Caltrain, et cetera. The Capital Investment Grant Program is going to grow significantly through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. You can see there's at least $8 billion over 5 years and up to a potential $15 billion to the Capital Investment Grant Program, and then a fair bit of money to really modernize and keep up in a state of good repair and electrify the transit rolling stock that VTA and others have within their fleets. Also on the federal front, the Build Back Better Act continues to work its way through the federal government. We probably all know that on November 19th, it did pass the House at the level of nearly $1.8 trillion. It then goes to the Senate, but it is expected that after that, the changes will be significant enough that it will have to go back to the House before going to the president. So we're aware that the deliberations are happening and that there's an attempt to make a big push before the holidays, but a lot of folks don't think that we'll have something that is signed until into 2022. This does focus on healthcare, childcare and family care, and the climate crisis. Within that, here are a few of the key transportation and infrastructure provisions that we're monitoring. Dedicated funding that can be used for passenger rail and specifically high-speed rail. An affordable housing access that pairs up transit and housing in a really innovative and promising way. Funding for zero emission vehicles and their charging, climate incentive grant programs, neighborhood access and equity, and a new economic development administration investment in innovation hubs. Moving over to the state, last year, the governor signed into law a climate investment package worth $15 billion. A lot of this goes toward our wildfire and forest resilience needs, as well as towards agriculture and drought resistance, water and drought resistance. The climate resilience portion and the zero emission vehicles are the portions with the most transportation direct impact. So I'll focus on those, which is key transportation related programs that we're talking about includes zero emission across the type of infrastructure we need: transit, rail, school bus programs, cars, trucks, and other off-road transportation vehicles. Much more investment in what has been called the Transformative Climate Communities Grant Program, which San Jose is eligible for again in the current round of funding coming up. A focus on urban greening within some of these programs. Regional planning, especially for adaptation and resilience and protection against sea level rise. So a lot of this is really still taking shape at the state level, and we're working with colleagues at the Strategic Growth Council and the Office of Planning and Research, among others, to try to help determine how these funding can best be spent, especially quickly, given the urgency around climate needs. And last but not least, last year in 2021, Governor Newsom proposed an $11 billion transportation package. And that included about $4.2 billion for high-speed rail. That's the final voter authorized Proposition 1A funding for high-speed rail. Another $2.1 billion in Fix It First or state of good repair funding for highways, roads, and bridges. $2 billion for transit and rail connectivity, another $500 million or $500 million for grade separation and safety projects, another $500 million for active transportation, and nearly $2 billion for zero emission vehicles, again, across the transit, rail, truck spectrum. Really importantly, $3.3 billion of this was one-time general fund money. And typically transportation does not get state general fund money. So that's a very unique opportunity that we had. With that, and given that the state is projecting over $30 billion surplus, the last we heard, we are humbly requesting of the governor with our colleagues in other transportation departments and agencies throughout the state that within 2022, this package moved forward. It was not advanced through some disagreements at the legislature. And so we're really focusing in on $4.2 billion. That would be the final Prop 1A funding for high-speed rail, as was proposed last year. And we're looking for at least $10 billion of that surplus funding to go to these extraordinary transportation needs that we see across the region and across the state. And that would be per our request, working with MTC and VTA and other transit agencies throughout the region, at least $5 billion statewide in public transit and rail funding, at least $2 billion in active transportation, again, statewide, and at least $1 billion dedicated to transportation related climate adaptation. And so that is our ask that we've put forward with MTC, VTA, Caltrain, et cetera, just earlier this month. And we're really continuing to try to connect with folks at the legislature as well as the governor's office to advance that as soon as possible next year. So that is about it. These are just key takeaways. First and foremost, if you remember nothing else from these slides, it is that we as a city need to plan for competitive grant opportunities. We are not going to get this funding just handed to us. We are going to need to be prepared to compete. And so we're very focused on that and wanted you to be aware of it. We're also, we know we need to coordinate at the regional and the statewide level to make the most of this money, especially when we can say to our colleagues at the state, hey, help us have the seed funding that goes and attracts that federal funding that was just approved. These are multi-year investment packages, and we also need to meet in advance of any grant applications with state and federal representatives, starting first with talking with them about what the guidelines should be for these programs. So that is the end of this update from the three of us on two important projects and how we might fund them and others, and we are here for your questions.
Thank you, Jessica and team. We'll go to members of the public first. We have 3 hands up so far. First one is Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Happy Monday. Thanks for the presentation. You know, the state and federal funding that was described here, it's a lot. It covers a lot of things. A lot. People can talk about a lot of issues on it. It's nice that we're getting all this general funding at this time, going into from federal sources going into state general funds at this time. I hope that federal funding can eventually land in, you know, infrastructure budgeting of state of California things, and that way that gives us security and a long-term insurance to for good practices to continue. That's my feeling. About the East Side projects, that can do some awesome work with renewable energy ideas and local procurement that's coming up, and that you're starting the charging station issues for electric buses on the East Side as well. Good luck with the East Side projects that you'll be doing and the rail system. The airport line connector to the from Duradon to the airport, that could use AV technology, and it actually may be a better way to use AV and technology, leave the light rail things alone so we can concentrate in practice and return to our good practices, and possibly work towards a centralized system in the future of the light rail. With 30 seconds, boy, I just need to apologize. I've been speaking for over a year now, about a year, about what can be, how do we prepare for a possible upcoming earthquake in 2023? I'm really sorry if I'm wrong with such questions, but I hope it can help prepare you either way, and that, you know, we have to be ready how to plan for this next year compared to the next few years. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I hope you're wrong too, but it's always good to be prepared for an earthquake. Eric Schoenauer.
Good afternoon, Chair Davis, members of the committee. My name's Eric Schoenauer. I represent a number of development projects in the city. As early as February of this year, as part of these quarterly updates on regional transportation, the Department of Transportation would provide a written status report on major infrastructure projects. And so we request that written status report continue to be prepared and provided to the council and to the public. The reason being is that the major infrastructure projects happen over 7 to 10 years. And if we don't keep the staff, the council, and especially Caltrans focused on implementing these projects, they sometimes go by the wayside and get delayed. So we request that a quarterly or twice a year written status report come forward to council, and that the major projects that I'm talking about are, for example, the US 101 Berryessa Interchange project. We cannot achieve a major job center at the Berryessa BART station unless the freeway interchange gets built by 2027. And since there was no mention of it today, we don't know if that project is on track or not. The 101 Zanker 4th Street overcrossing, is critical to relieve congestion on the First Street corridor, north and south of 101, and facilitate development in North First Street. And then lastly, the I-280 Winchester off-ramp is critical for the development of the Santana Row Valley Fair Urban Village. So these key projects, along with the BART extension, should be in a written status report twice a year.
Thank you. Next speaker is Paul Soto.
Yeah, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I got to tell you, and I've never pulled a punch. I mean, I've been quite honest with this council. I don't think there's any other way to be. And there is a definite conflict of interest having the mayor of the city who has authority and exercises authority, okay, and the two council members that strategically are in District 3 and District 5, okay, and those are the two districts that were absolutely necessary in order to facilitate, to make this work. And those are the two, Carrasco and Perales and Lucardo, that were in on that non-disclosure agreement. So when that happened, all of these projects were talked about. I don't care if they were in place or in motion 10 years before. That's not a relevant point. What is a relevant point is that whatever plans there were, those were amended. The minute that agreement was signed, those plans, whatever they were amended. And these were the plans that were set in place. Now, one of the things that I'd like to make clear is that an equity lens was absolutely applied, because we all know that the freeway infrastructure here in San Juan, 87, 680, 101. Remember the Chevy Impala up there? Remember the homeboy put a Chevy Impala up on 101 because it wasn't built? Okay, well, there was an equity lens because they understood that money absolutely needed to go to the barrios that were most impacted by those policies 2 generations ago. Now, this is fact. This is not opinion. So I'd like to hear that talked about. What kind of equity lens are you going to use? And I'd also like the land acquisitions that are going on the east side.
Thank you. Next speaker is calling user 1.
Hi. Yeah. You're going to get all this money that's going to rain down from the federal government from Uncle Joe. And I can't imagine how fast it's going to run out and how fast you're going to have to raise taxes, because you're not going to be able to maintain what you have or what you think you're going to build, which should have been built, well, a long time ago, but you guys didn't do it. All right. Or your people before you, I should say, didn't do it. And I don't think the city realizes what it takes to maintain a proper system for public transportation. It's very expensive, very, very expensive. It's very complicated. It's really out of San Jose's league, because you guys don't know how to really do anything. Just take a look around at Plywood City. But if you really want something to work, just have buses run from the airport to the downtown like most normal cities do in Europe. But you guys don't do that. You guys think you're going to be like Europe, but you're not. You guys are more like, I don't know, really bad socialist Europe, where everything's gray and dreary and boarded up. You're not going to be able to do it. You don't have the patience or the expertise to do that. And if you just think you're going to get a bunch of money from the feds, you're going to need a lot more in the future. And it's only going to come from the taxpayer, and it's going to not be very good. And it's going to be super expensive to use this unicorn mass transit. You already have bus lines. Just get them going to and from the downtown. You guys want this little light rail like you're in Switzerland? Look, it sucks there. Okay? The light rail they installed in Sevilla, Spain, it sucks there. The light rail here in San Jose, it sucks here. So I think you guys are very misguided, and all this Google and big.
Thank you. Turning back to my colleagues. Are there questions or comments for the panel? Okay, while my colleagues are gathering their thoughts, I just wanted to ask one question. Jess, thank you for all the updates, but especially the legislative update. Is there a timeline for the state infrastructure package, the state transportation package? Since the 2021 didn't pass, and there's the projections always change between January and June, and so I'm wondering what the timeline is for that package likely to be.
That's a great question. So when that did not come together before the end of the 2021 legislative cycle, folks in Sacramento somewhat put down their pencils for a while on it. But we are aware that there have been some meetings picking back up, including some that we've had, and some correspondence from Southern California or MTC aimed at kind of setting the stage for these talks over the last month. So those conversations are happening, and we hope that there is a public discussion and package put out there in the January timeframe. It's not completely clear at this point from our lobbyists in Sacramento whether that will be just kind of part of the whole state budget package or whether it will be put forward separately before that, but we could keep you posted.
Thanks.
Yep. Our hope is sooner, but we'll see.
Okay. And then in terms of the federal legislation, what is it looking like on the piece that already passed in terms of, so not the Build Back Better, but the infrastructure, whatever it's called.
Investment Jobs Act. Yep.
Investment Jobs Act. Thank you. So you talked about these individual programs. Are these programs that they look like they're generally funding existing programs? So are the requirements known already, or what's the timeline for those for actually getting that money in? And you had talked about, whether the city applies or whether our partners apply.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
what does that look like?
Yep. Good question. So there are a chunk of the programs that have already existed, that are existing programs that may have some modifications and often have more funding available, but they are largely established. And so that's one bucket. And then there is a new bucket of programs that are proposed for the first time. And we can think of them as on somewhat separate tracks, kind of to your question. And the first ones, the one that have already existed, they typically will get out of the gate faster. They'll propose their changes, or, in the case of some, for example, the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, has put out a request for information already last week, saying by January 2nd, please tell us what you think about these programs that are existing programs that have been modified and added to in the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act. So we'll be reviewing those this month and providing our comments before January 2nd. So it's just one example. The electric vehicle related provisions, those are also out in a similar format to say, here's what has been allowed for. Tell us what you think, tell us what you would change. People across the country will be submitting comments on those to try to shape those before they're finalized. Then the new programs start from an earlier space, right? And so those are the ones that we really want to get in on the ground level in terms of what is eligible, what meets our needs, and how the provisions are shaped. So we're working on those, but those will typically come a little bit after. And then you asked about coordinating with our partners, right? Some of these funds, MTC will control, right? They will be delegated to the MTC level, Metropolitan Transportation Commission for our region. And then MTC will typically have a competitive distribution to those. Some funds will flow to our transit operators like VTA for state of good repair and other needs like that. And so those will also flow to them, and we'll continue to coordinate as we do, but somewhat on steroids given the additional funding available with our partners to figure out how to support each other as we apply for these grant opportunities.
Okay, thank you. And to the mayor's question, last Tuesday, I think it was, do you have a list of projects from all of our partners, including Caltrain Electrification, since we just had a special meeting about that this morning, including Caltrain Electrification and Bart Phase 2. It sounds like the Eastridge connector also is in need of some additional funding. So do we have a list of those that you're going to provide to us? I can't remember what you said on Tuesday, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the mayor last Tuesday, for those who weren't there, was asking about our sort of citywide marching orders. And so we are working with the intergovernmental relation teams to feed into that citywide effort. Because of all of these transportation opportunities, we do already have somewhat of a list that we would be happy to provide. It's of course public, aimed first at those state opportunities, because that is so rare and so potentially impactful as flexible funding. So that list of state priorities does include the Bart Silicon Valley project, the Caltrain electrification project. It includes a Duradon station. We also have been working with VTA to make sure that in the work that MTC and VTA have pulled together, that the Eastridge to Bart regional connector is also highlighted as a project that's ready to go, but for that regional measure 3 or RM3 money that it's waiting for. So those are exactly the types of things that are put out there and that we've been sharing with our delegation in Sacramento. And we're putting together an analogous version for the federal government, but that is not ready yet, to my knowledge.
Okay. And then you had mentioned grade separations a couple of times. So I just want to check in on that. I'm trying to remember, I'm thinking there are 5 grade separation projects. Is that right, in the city of San Jose that we're looking for? So 3 in the south and 2 up in my area where we have Virginia and
Ozare.
Ozare, thank you. I was blanking on the street name for a second. And then in the south, it's Chenoweth?
Monterey, Chenoweth, and Skyway. Correct.
Okay, Skyway.
So, yeah, your memory is exactly correct that we have 5 high priority grade separation projects along the Caltrain and Union Pacific future high-speed rail alignment. I would only add that we do also have projects along other rail corridors that help with both safety and noise, because that's been a clear priority for obvious reasons of late. But those could include things along all of the Warm Springs corridor, right, which includes District 4, District 3, into the edge of District 6. And it could include the Vasona corridor as well, shared Union Pacific and VTA Light Rail corridor. So that type of thing, some of these safety improvement fundings for railroads could cover both. Doesn't just have to be grade separation.
So for the ones that you just mentioned, Vasona, Warm Springs, et cetera, those would be for safety improvements like quad gates, that kind of stuff, as opposed to actual grade separations. Am I right about that?
Correct.
Okay. And are we engaging with our partners, including Caltrain and high-speed rail, on the 5 grade separations?
We are. So the last week, we submitted a grant application actually for one of those existing programs, which in future years will be getting more money based on the Infrastructure Investment Job Act. And what we submitted was funding to get us through environmental clearance if we're awarded it for the 3 grade separation projects along the Monterey corridor at Chenoweth, Skyway, and Branham. And the reason that we applied for those 3 is because they are distinct from and could then move in parallel with the Duradon Station project, which includes the Ozarray and Virginia grade separations. So together, if we are successful in that grant application, we could move those forward. And our partners at High Speed Rail and Caltrain both supported our request for funding, which we very much appreciated.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. I don't see any of my colleagues with their hands raised. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, I think this was just a verbal report. Do you need us to accept it? Do we need a motion for that? I'm seeing Colleen nod her head. Okay.
Move to accept the report.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Can we take roll, please?
Esparza? Esparza?
Yes.
Foley?
Aye.
Perales?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. And before we move on to the next item, I did want to address the issue about the written reports. Jessica, did you want to talk about that? I think we're going to semi-annual written reports. Is that right? And we're doing a verbal update every other time?
So we were directed to go to at least annual written reports and a verbal update for the rest, but we are open to feedback. That was a change made last year. So
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think so you're going to bring items to us as there are changes and pertinent updates, and so that's fine with me. I think the less time we spend on report writing, the more time we can spend on going out and getting those grants that we need to get. Thank you. And if anybody wants an update on specific items, they can always write into either me as the chair or the Department of Transportation. I know Jessica keeps track of all this stuff at all times, and or the pertinent council member whose district has that project. So please feel free to do that. For the next item, D2, major local transportation planning report, I think is Ramsey's kicking this one off.
Yeah. Hi. Hi again, Ramses Madhu, Division Manager of Planning Policy and Sustainability for DOT. And I'm going to be discussing a little bit of our transportation planning efforts, or actually my team will. Just do a quick intro here. All right, make sure I share things right first. So as you heard from Jessica, the need to plan our projects is, it's always been really important and has gotten that much more important. There's a lot that hinges on the plans we make. It is what allows us to build things. It is what allows us to go get grants. It's what allows us to see what we might want to do in the future. And so our group does that for transportation in the city. And we do keep a compendium of all of the ongoing efforts in our report every 6 months to you. That is in our written report. But we do focus usually on 1 or 2 efforts in the presentation. And today we're going to be talking about the downtown transportation plan, as well as our emerging mobility plan and all that. Questions will be at the end. And those questions, of course, can be on the presentation or on the further report. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Wilson Tam, who will be discussing the downtown transportation plan. Wilson.
Thank you, Ramses, and good afternoon, Chair and Committee. Wilson Tam, Transportation Planning Manager at DOT, and I am joined by Eric Eidlin, Station Planning Manager for this presentation. So we will be talking about the status update of the downtown transportation plan. This is a 2-year effort for developing the transportation plan. The last time we developed this transportation plan for the downtown area was in 2003, which is shortly after the original Downtown Strategy 2000 was adopted. And by that time, the scope of that transportation plan for downtown was to address congestion management program requirements. Since that time, a lot of things happened in downtown, including the update of the general plan adopted in 2011. And we also have various goals in the city in terms of addressing mobility and climate sustainability. And so there is a need to update the scope of the downtown plan to look at over the next 20 years, which is the horizon year of the general plan 2040, what kinds of transportation improvements can be done in the downtown area to support the significant growth in downtown and also the other major transit infrastructure investment that have been made thus far. And thank you, Ramses, for running the presentation while I'm speaking. So this slide is about the expected growth for the downtown over the next 20 years. The pie chart, the histogram on the right side gives us the population number for 2019 versus 2040. We expect to see at least double the number of people that will be living, working, and visiting downtown in the next 20 years. And so that would mean that congestion would be a very important thing to address. And so in order for us to tackle that, it's important for us to look at not only the downtown core per se, but kind of looking at the broader area of the downtown area. So if you look at the map on the left side, you'll see that the downtown core in the middle, but then the study boundary for this is actually much beyond, which includes the university on the east side, the Japantown on the north side, the Willow Keys area in the south side, and the Duradon Station area on the left side. Next slide, please. So this is the 2-year effort that started in early 2020. And we have strategically worked with the Department of Planning, Building Code Enforcement on the Duradon Station area plan as the first step of the process. So we have spent a bit of time working with PBCE on developing transportation projects in the Duradon area and also supporting the Downtown West development proposal in the early part of the process. And now as the Duradon Station area plan and the Downtown West projects have been adopted, we have now shifted gears to look at the rest of this downtown study area. So we are now roughly 3/4 way in the planning process. And we have worked with 3 CBO or community-based organizations, Chopstick Alley, Prosperity Lab, and Walk San Jose to conduct our engagement activities. And we have done a lot of things over the past year. We have developed the community values and desires and goals, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. And we have also worked with the CBO partner and the stakeholders to develop strategies. And we are now in the point where we will be proposing these strategies to the public in the form of an online open house, which I'm going to speak a little bit about in the later part of the presentation. And the goal is to wrap up the proposal with prioritization, cost estimates, and implementation plan for next year, with the goal of completing the work and also bringing the entire downtown transportation plan for council for consideration roughly June 2022. And by the way, this is the project that is funded by Caltrain. And the purpose of this plan is really about leveraging the major transit investment that have happened to date. For example, we have heard in the early part of the presentation about the Duradon Integrated Station Concept Plan, or DISC. We have the Downtown West proposal and also Bart Silicon Valley Extension Phase 2. And, we have done some analyses showing that, in order for us to leverage or maximize the potential brought forth by these major investments, we need to plan out the rest of the downtown plan or the downtown area in ways that can facilitate active transportation activities, improving or increasing the number of transit riders, bicycles, and pedestrian walking in and around downtown. In the first phase of the planning process, we have worked with the CBO partner and also the community to define what the community desires are. And these are the 5 desires that we have summarized based on the engagement we have done to date. We have heard loud and clear that the downtown residents and workers and visitors would like to see more reliable transit. They would like to see safer access to their destination. They would like to see more street life and more ground floor retail. We have also heard about Santa Clara Street being the most popular, but also the most infamous street in the city, in the downtown area in terms of the street being the major transit corridor, but have not been designed to function as one. So there are many comments about how about the desire to re-envision Santa Clara Street and plan for the street to leverage the major transit improvement or investment that will happen in the next 20 years. We also heard loud and clear about the barriers that the existing freeway ramps has proposed or has imposed to the community in terms of the community being able to walk across the freeway interchange between both sides of the freeway and biking along it. So so this is one of the desires that we would like to address in this downtown plan. And then we have worked with our CBO partners to translate these community desires into 5 planning principles or goals, if you will. And they are named people first, meaning this plan is really about addressing people and putting people in the forefront of everything. Placemaking, how to activate the space to make downtown the place where people would enjoy going to and living in. Also promote climate sustainability, promote economic development, which is very important, and also equity, especially since the majority of the equity focus areas are located in the east side of the downtown area. How can we ensure that the proposals from this plan is going to benefit especially those who have historically been underserved in the east side of downtown. And if there is one number that you would like to take away from this presentation, it will be 50%. So we would like to, we have done some analysis, and in order to support the climate smart goals and also the community desires in downtown area, we would really like to see the number or the proportion of the downtown trips being made by walking, biking, and taking transit at 50%. Today, that number is roughly about 10%. So we really want to increase that number by 5-fold to around 50%. And the remaining of the 50% will be made by driving alone and also carpooling, etc. So this is, I'm not going to spend too much time into explaining each of these things, but there are 4 categories of proposals that will be made in this plan. And we will be spending the next few slides talking about the first 2 categories, namely the big moves and the street network. It's also important to highlight that there are programmatic measures and also policies that will be recommended by this plan. For example, how to address parking in the area and how to leverage the emergent mobility options, which there will be a presentation about that by our colleague Laura later on in the downtown area. And we would like to highlight a couple of big moves that we have worked with our stakeholders to define. And one of the big moves is about revisiting or re-envisioning Santa Clara Street. This is a picture of Santa Clara Street many years ago. And it's important to know that how can we reconfigure the street and the space for Santa Clara Street to allow for something that actually had happened in the past, such as like more outdoor dining, wider sidewalks, and how to make Santa Clara Street as a main street in downtown where people would love being in. And instead of using the street for people to drive past through, our studies show that there is a huge proportion of the vehicles traveling on Santa Clara Street are actually passing through downtown. They are not ending in downtown by any means of stretch. So this has been, Santa Clara Street has been used as the pass-through corridor. And how can we redesign Santa Clara Street to take advantage of the transit investment that have been put and will be put in the street, and try to activate the area and also make Santa Clara Street safer. And Santa Clara Street, the stretch of that street will be between the Duradon station on the west side and 101 on the east side. Another big move idea that we would like to highlight here is addressing one of the major community desires, freeway barriers that I just talked about briefly in the previous slide. And so this is the figure presented to us by Spur. They have done a study 2 years ago about how to activate the downtown area. And they have recommended several proposals in the downtown area, including the demolishment of the 87 and how to take advantage of the space created by the 87 space to create an active space for the downtown area. And this is something that the downtown plan is going to consider. And also, we would also like to highlight the fact that the 280 barriers are existing today in terms of there are basically ramps on most of the parallel streets that traverses through 87 or interchanges with, I-280 freeway. And how can we address these barriers by potentially consolidating some of the freeway ramps at 280 into full interchanges at key locations so that we can preserve the valuable space for the other modes for the downtown area. It's important to note that we are not, this is not the scope of the downtown plan to implement these big moves, because these big moves are very expensive. It takes years to actually plan out, to design, and also get it fully funded. This downtown transportation plan aims to identify the direction that the city would like to pursue in the future. And so we expect that like the downtown plan is going to set forth a direction for the city to pursue for subsequent planning, design, and engineering. So that like in the case of infrastructure bills and other great opportunities, when they arise, we can use this plan as our leverage to get these projects further studied, planned, designed, and constructed. This is the map that we talked about the big moves thus far, and we would like to design the rest of the downtown streets to support these big investments, right? And so this is a map called the street network, and we identify each of the streets in downtown as or to define a priority or a function for each of the streets in downtown. So the purpose of this map is to redesign each of the streets in downtown to have a purpose. So each street should have a purpose to serve, and the streets should be redesigned to prioritize and balance the various needs of diverse street users. And so we have, in the general plan, we have the what we call the street topology. And so this is to expand that concept to identify key routes for different uses of the streets, such as the transit corridors, bike corridors, walking corridors, paseo closed streets, and vehicle and delivery corridors. It's important, it's interesting to highlight that we have identified it or proposed various spaces or various street segments that we may consider to temporarily closed to vehicles for festivals and event purposes. And there are street segments that may be proposed to be permanently closed to vehicles. especially street segments that do not have many driveways or many access to the buildings. And also we can leverage some of these street segments once they are fully close to vehicles to activate the space, provide more ground floor retail to make a full and balanced transportation network. It's also important to highlight as the last point here that we, if you can see some of the process along 280, these represent the proposed ramp closures. So we have 280 ramps at 1st, 4th Street, 6th and 7th Streets. The idea here is to, if we can find a way to kind of consolidate these ramps into full interchanges at 3 key locations, such as Bird Avenue, Albert and Vine, and 10th and 11th Street. So we have then have 3 interchanges along 280 so that we can preserve the rest of the streets for supporting the street network as shown here. And with that, I'm going to pass it along to Ramses, who would be working with Laura for the Immersion Mobility Action Plan presentation.
I'm just going to pass it right along. Laura Styczynski will be talking about the Emerging Mobility Action Plan.
Good afternoon, Chair Davis and Council Committee members and staff. I'm going to describe what the Emerging Mobility Action Plan seeks to do, how we're going about it, where we are in the process, and share some of our top draft recommendations. Next slide, please. So what is the Emerging Mobility Plan? In short, it's a subset of the Access and Mobility Plan. The purpose of that plan is to determine how the city can achieve its ambitious transportation and environmental goals, including dramatically increasing the proportion of trips we take by walking, biking, and shared mobility from 24% today to 60% by 2040. Next slide. The purpose of the Emerging Mobility Action Plan is to determine how the city might use new transportation services and technologies to help it realize its goals. That includes services that are currently available, such as ride-hailing, on-demand shuttles, car sharing, shared bikes and scooters, as well as those on the horizon, such as aerial and ground-based delivery drones, and those eventually transporting humans, automated car sharing, and ride-hailing, and automated shuttles. We want to position the city to be able to manage these largely privately owned and operated services to serve the public good, making sure that all residents benefit from them. To do that, we centered equity in this planning process. Next slide. There are many ways of doing that. One of the steps we took was to strive to collaborate with the city's communities, particularly its most marginalized communities, in every phase of this planning process. We also created a racial equity task force comprised of community leaders and organizations. They educated us, challenged us, and invited us into conversations with their communities, which included families, seniors and youth, LGBTQ people, and people with disabilities. More information about the task force is available at movesanjose.org. But one of the most important things we did was listen. Next slide. The Equity Task Force came prepared to talk about transportation. It was quickly apparent that other issues were far more urgent for them and their communities. Issues like affordable housing and displacement, access to healthcare, environmental justice, and public safety, among others. So task force members thought transportation was important, particularly public transit. But they said it simply doesn't work for a lot of people. Buses don't go where they need to go or when they need to get there. They run too infrequently. They cost too much. It takes a long time to get where you need to go. For many families, a car is seen as a necessity despite its high cost. Next slide. For these reasons and others, emerging mobility seemed irrelevant. They said these services were too expensive, didn't meet their needs, such as transporting groceries or children, or they faced other barriers. They may not have a smartphone or a credit card or a driver's license, all of which are required to use these services. Information is typically offered in English, sometimes Vietnamese and Spanish. Many more languages are spoken in San Jose. Their service may not be available in their neighborhood, or they don't know how to use it. Another issue was feeling unsafe using these services for fear of harassment from members of the public or the police, sharing a ride or having an older relative do so with people they don't know, or using bikes or scooters on city streets. Next slide. As a result, the recommendations generated by this planning process focused on means to remove barriers to access and ensuring that services meet community needs. What follows are the 5 top recommendations as ranked by our equity task force members. Next slide. The first is tailoring services to create mobility options and programs that are tailored to seniors and working families with kids. Next is making it easy to pay, creating easy to access payment systems that could include things like pay stations or partnerships with local businesses and refillable smart cards that can be used across mobility providers. Next slide. 3 is collaborating with the community, engaging with community-based organizations or CBOs prior to making major program, policy, and project decisions, such as instituting deployment requirements, partnering with CBOs to conduct racial equity analyses on proposed programs and plans, collaborating on the development of evaluation criteria to assess program performance and making all those evaluations public, establishing minimum service levels by geography for all services, collaborating on ways to better integrate public transit and emerging mobility and ensure they're complementary. And lastly, working with the community and CBOs to design programs that would better meet their needs. Next slide. 4 is education and awareness. Securing funding to pay community members to educate and spread awareness about emerging mobility services in their communities. Giving CBOs and service agencies vouchers and discounts that they can pass on to residents to allow them to test and become familiar with services. Working with neighborhoods, school districts, and colleges to educate students on how to safely use these services. 5 is workforce training. Establishing workforce development programs to connect low-income residents and youth to emerging mobility-related job opportunities, particularly when those are well-paid and have the potential for future growth. Establishing local hire requirements for emerging mobility companies targeting underserved communities. Next slide. There were many lessons learned in this planning process, all of which will be summarized in the final report. But perhaps the biggest is more thoroughly understanding the importance of centering equity in our planning processes. Many San Jose residents, particularly our more disadvantaged communities, need more reliable, useful, and affordable mobility options. We heard interest in options that could meet a broader variety of needs, such as those shown on this slide: on-demand shuttles and adult tricycles, electric vehicles, and electric cargo bikes, and community-designed and operated ride-sharing services. But we have to address the barriers to entry that prevents many in our communities from using existing and new services and consequently accessing resources and opportunities they need and deserve. Next slide. We are currently in the 3rd round of engagement, which aligns with the preliminary recommendations phase of this project. We'll complete the final plan for this project by the end of February and anticipate presenting it to council sometime shortly thereafter. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
And thank you, Chair and Committee. We're happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you. We're going to go to members of the public first. First speaker is Paul Soto. While we're having trouble hearing you, it looks like you got muted again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Equity being centered within these infrastructure projects is it mocks and it makes fun of equity. Okay, because the city doesn't have a definition yet. Okay, and going to Somos, going to Si Se Puede Collective, going to any nonprofit on the east side that collects money and has been doing business with Carrasco's office that started getting all of these millions of dollars funneled to them from Google in 2016. From 2016 till now, that's what's been happening. This pipeline of cash. And so the legitimacy when defining equity to go to those organizations and say that what they're saying is legitimate when their whole position is compromised because they have been accepting cash from the city. Okay, so why don't you get someone like me, someone that has absolutely no profit motive? I do not make a dime, nothing. Okay, all I care about is that justice be done, and that has not happened yet. So it's a mockery to include equity inside here, like you guys are doing, like someone like me a favor. I'm a Chicano, and I don't like being called a low-income people. I mean, listen to this stuff. This is dehumanizing language. I mean, listen to it. Underserved community. No. I was racistly deprived of resources. Willow Glen ain't resource rich. Willow Glen is resource racist. That's what it is. And so until we can get to a point where we can talk about that openly and honestly and just put our cards on the table.
Next speaker is Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Paul just said that really nice, and it's like we have to make up, I try to make up nice words to say what Paul just very nicely said. Councilperson Carrasco has been working very much what can be a full avenue corridor all along Alum Rock, from Google Village all the way up to Alum Rock Park itself in the future. And what can be an avenue? What can be a promenade for ourselves? And this item stops at the 101 and talks about technology. Now, I was about to go into my usual speech about the importance of what open public policies can do for the future of this project and the sense of equity and equality it can bring to this project, where all sides can come to the table and negotiate what are our good practices with technology. That is open public policies. That's where we can all hash out our differences, share agreements and understandings, and that's our community. That's it's just a model of how we build the future of our community. Yet what Paul is saying, I mean, it's kind of it's a bit of a ripoff. It's a bit of a scam. You're going to be dumping in a ton of surveillance technology into all of this. We're now supposed to accept a ton of new surveillance technology on the east side and say this is progress. So I don't know what to do. It's pretty tough, but I'm giving you the tools that I think open public policies can way help your questions of what exactly can be equity. And it really defines it well. And you're going to have to be considering it with all the new technology you're placing here. And I would like to talk further about these sort of issues at open forum and the use of law enforcement and Vision Zero. Open public policies, again, help with these things a lot. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker is call-in user 1.
Adult tricycles. Did I hear that right? Adult tricycles. Do they come with adult diapers too in the back? Who knows? Right? Adult tricycles. And these scooters. These scooters are an eyesore. People dump them in the street so you can't park your car. You're going to rely on scooters, adult tricycles, and wait. The buses. Some main thoroughfares don't even have a bus line. And all of a sudden, these bus lines are going to appear and light rail. I mean, are we going to have a little streetcar like New Orleans? Ding, 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 going up and down. No, you're not. You're not. You people are going to get a lot of money for this light rail thing, and it's not going to work. Caltrain, not going to work. Worst train in the world. And right now, we're going through this COVID situation where somebody might get a cold or the sniffles. And all of a sudden, man, we got to have vaccine papers and negative COVID tests and all this. How are people going to go on mass transit when they have a boy in the plastic bubble mentality? They're going to have to wear a mask, and they're going to be mask police. I can't wait to see this. So how are you going to dump all this money into public transit when people are not going to be probably using it for the next decade if we keep making a big deal about the sniffles? Right? Somebody might get a little cold or something, and all of a sudden, oh no, we're gonna shut everything down. Got to wear triple mask and a face shield. It's a joke. All this thing you're talking about with the mass transit, I'll tell you what, I can't wait to see the adult tricycles. I just hope that they have adult diapers in there just in case they have an accident. You know, you never know what can happen if you have these elderly people on these adult tricycles. And I mean, seriously, that is what you guys.
Thank you. Turning back to the committee, Councilmember Foley.
I, for one, think an adult tricycle is an awesome idea. I can carry my groceries in the back. I can go for a ride and feel somewhat stable. But I do have some questions. Thank you for that report. Laura, I have some questions for you regarding your report specifically. It's called the Access and Mobility Report, and I'm getting a little hung up on the term access and mobility, because when I think of access and mobility, I think of our disability community. So you talked a lot about reaching out, using the equity lens, which is great. And you showed a lot of pictures of scooters and things like that, but I don't see my seniors in wheelchairs or who have access issues or who have vision impairment or hearing impairment accessing mass transit or using those tools that you highlighted. So how are we reaching out? How are we engaging the members of the disability community to make sure that when we're talking about accessibility, we're including them?
Let me clear something up before Laura answers there, because I think there's a little bit of nomenclature mix up there. So one,
there is. That's why I brought it up, Ramses.
Yeah, well, yeah. So the access and mobility plan is the citywide transportation plan. The access and mobility plan was coming from the perspective of access, meaning people's ability to reach the things they need to get to, and mobility being the ways to do that, right? We will be releasing what is currently called the Access and Mobility Plan under a different name called Move San Jose, so that we don't confuse people as much. That being said, we are also making sure to reach out to the disabilities community, and we'll be hosting, along with your office actually, a workshop specifically focused on how to bring the access and mobility plan in looking at it through the lens of the disabilities community, making sure that we've done that. We've actually already updated the goals and all of that in that plan to reflect that. Now, the emerging mobility plan is what Laura is doing, and that is just a different thing that's specifically looking at new market trends and trying to figure out how to make those more equitable and actually serve the public good.
And Councilmember Foley, I think that you're right on mark. That's exactly what we heard from the communities. You did speak to people in the disability community, and we talked to people who work with people in the disability community, and they raised the fact that these scooters do not serve their needs. And that's what we're trying to get across, is that the services that are there now don't serve a lot of people. They also are not accessible to them, even if they could serve them. So we need to get over these barriers and expand the kind of services that are available, like the tricycle, like on-demand shuttles that can serve a wider variety of people.
I appreciate that. And I'm the first one to admit that I don't know the right terminology to use. So I often misuse the terminology when I know in my head what I'm trying to say, but it may not come out in the right way. So in going through the report, I knew that you weren't talking about wheelchair access and that, but it's the nomenclature, as Ramses said. If we're looking at the Office of Disability Affairs and we're continually referring to accessibility, then we need to change the dialogue at this level to something else. And if it's move, whatever you called it, that makes sense. Talking about the scooters and the delivery drones and things like that, or robotics, I'm really concerned about those as it relates to our seniors' access on the streets. If they have a visual impairment, if they're like me and I was walking around with a a broken knee for a long time, I'm walking with a cane and I see a scooter nearby, it's going to be difficult for me, or they're going to go zipping past me and I'm going to get nervous. Same thing with the robotics that are being delivered. So as we come to grips with current technology, we need to make sure that old is okay too. Old technology is okay. Restoring the street to Santa Clara. I loved kind of the look of going back to where we were. Wilson is taking a look at what that street looked like so many years ago and how it was actually a lot more accessible for people who wanted to just wander around and explore the city. So I love the direction we're going there. Just want to keep out the front of mind that we have a population of disabled folks who are not just senior citizens, but have a hard time getting around. And we need to help them get around too, because they are the ones who are probably not driving. They probably are using mass transit. And if you're coming from District 9, that is not the easiest thing to do to use mass transit to get to downtown. So with that, I'm finished. Chair, I will move that we accept the item.
Second.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Thank you. Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you. And thanks, staff, for the very thorough report. It's always great to hear updates on these topics and learn more about where we are and where we're going, I guess literally and figuratively. So I have some questions about a few things. I saw in the report, I know you were talking about a project to help people buy EVs, and I know that that's on hold now because of supply chain issues and lack of available vehicles. Are we planning to go back to that program again, and what will that look like?
Yes, you very much want to go ahead, Ramses.
I'll say just a quick thing and then please add, Laura, if I'm missing anything. So one, we are most certainly going to be looking back at the EV program and trying to figure out exactly what the best approach is. We do have an electric mobility action plan that council did adopt, and we've been working from that. And that is part of that. We are asking for more resources to be able to do that. We currently don't have enough staff to kind of implement a lot of this, so that'll be coming forward too. But we do have seen traction with that program and would like to see more attention paid to that.
Okay, great. I saw this week or last week, I guess it was, a study about the Wall Street Journal published. You might have seen it about kind of showing now that having an EV for 100,000 miles is actually cheaper than having a gas-powered vehicle. There's now data, pretty good study. In fact, if you charge at home, it's certainly cheaper. If you charge in public charging stations, filling can be more expensive, but if you factor in all the maintenance savings that electric vehicles have, it's still cheaper. But California is the exception on the gas EV trade-off as well. So it's clearly in this area, because of higher gas prices, less expensive to own an EV than it is to own a gas vehicle. And I think that's something people don't understand. And I just wanted to, I guess, I don't know if I'm asking it at this point or just commenting that as we move back to that program, that public message, that teaching will be important. I don't know, maybe there's no comment on that.
That's very true. I think we agree there. Jessica Zank, Deputy Director for DOT, Laura and her one-person team have on this item have also been doing some financial counseling services, partnering with local agencies who are already working with folks who don't believe that they could afford an EV, with that in mind, actually, that they probably could if they had the right information.
Great, thank you. I noticed it mentioned that there was a comment in the report about in order to lower the cost to maintain and operate the 60 public charging stations, shifting downtown chargers to PG&E's rate. Is there a reason we can't use San Jose Clean Energy for those? It's just that it's a little more expensive now, and we feel it's better to be on PG&E. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Actually, it is our rate, because if PG&E adopts it, then San Jose Clean Energy will have the same rate.
So we'll be using, it's just about the rate, but we'll be using San Jose clean energy sources
Correct.
to power them. Okay, that wasn't clear. Thank you. Is there any, I think probably there's planned at some point, but in the part of these area plans, is light rail grade separation part of the future planning?
Yeah, absolutely. In multiple ways, actually. And I think that's a really interesting topic to bring up. As part of the Plan Bay Area 2050 that was just recently adopted that we brought up earlier, a light rail grade separation through downtown, as well as most of North First Street was also adopted. And so we're actually working with VTA. We almost got a joint application together to do the VTA, the North First Street portion planning this round, but we're going to look for it next round. So about 9 months to a year from now, we're going to start looking for planning money for that. And then the downtown piece, kind of coming off the end of the downtown plan, we'd start digging into that.
Yeah, great. That's good news, because I think in order to get the usage level to where we want it to be, we're going to need to speed it up, and that's one way to do it, obviously. And also it's better for traffic flow across it as well, as you know. The other, I guess, sort of related question, is there a program for signal preemption for buses and light rail lines?
So yeah, that's a great thing to bring up. There is. San Jose has three forms, but really two ways of doing preemption for vehicles. One is at the signal, and that can either be preemption or meaning always green whenever a vehicle comes, or getting extended green and stuff like that, giving more likely greens to transit vehicles. But we're now experimenting with what we do with the fire vehicles, emergency vehicles, which have green no matter what, right? And that's a centralized system. So there you get on the vehicle, you get basically a GPS signal that goes back to our central traffic control center, which then gives them a green. And so if you drive a fire truck through the city, with the lights on, you get a green the entire way. And so we're looking at how to do that. We're also working on the transit first policy, where we'll be clearly outlining where and when these kinds of treatments are appropriate. And we're really excited to bring that along with the now Move San Jose plan, or Access Mobility Plan. Those things will be coming together for your consideration, probably early second quarter next year.
Great, thank you. And since you mentioned me driving a fire truck, I'd love to have that opportunity. In the downtown plan, is there a discussion about parking wayfinding and some kind of technology there to help people get where they're going faster and off the road?
Wilson?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Cohen. Yes, we did not talk about the programming side of the downtown transmission plan. So we are thinking about ways to facilitate parking, especially since if the street network is going to be prioritizing for different types of users, we really want people who would continue to drive and exit the freeways to have an easy way to find their parking, instead of like circling around the downtown streets just to find an available parking space on the street. And so how can we effectuate the program to facilitate parking is one of the strategies being considered, and technology is going to get us there. We have the Park San Jose program already today. So how can we bring in more technology and more trip planning tools to help people navigate the parking system is something that we would like to pursue. And in terms of the implementation of it, obviously we would like to see how we can get the funding we need to fund a lot of these expensive programs. So I know that like all of us are talking about various plans and policies. So if you don't mind to also bear with another policy that we are working on right now. So we have the parking and TDM policy that is being led by PBCE and also co-led by us. So we are looking at programs like this to evaluate how to bring in more parking and TDM solutions in the city, especially including the downtown area with a hopefully an expanded parking system.
And there's obviously there's vendors out there who provide systems like that. I suppose you're looking into some of those and seeing what might be appropriate and how that would work for San Jose.
We wouldn't look at that within the planning documents. That'd be an operational consideration, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it for my questions.
Thank you. Are there other committee members who have questions or comments? All right, we have a motion to accept this report. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Esparza,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Perales, Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Perales. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move now to item 3, storm sewer and sanitary sewer annual reports. Matthew?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
My name is Matthew Nguyen. I'm a Deputy Director for Transportation and Hydraulic Services Division in Public Works. And with me today, I see in the panel, we have Jennifer again with DOT. So I'll do the presentation and walk you through the reports. So a quick introduction on the collection system that we have in the city. For the storm sewer system, we have over 1,000 miles of pipelines in the city. And the storm sewer system is designed in a way that stormwater will be collected through a series of curb and gutter and inlet, and it will go through a system of pipelines and eventually will end up being discharged into the surrounding water bodies through the outfalls. And in some areas where we have low ground elevation, then we'll have to have a pump station to lift that water up and pump it over the levee. So we have a total of 31 pump stations in the city. And then on the other hand, we have sanitary sewer system that has about 2,000 miles of pipeline. Similarly, it collects the domestic water and sewage from residential, commercial buildings, and it convey all of that flow in a system of pipeline, go all the way north and end up at the regional wastewater facility for treatment before releasing it into the bay. And also we have about 17 pump stations throughout the city. About the storm sewer key initiatives, we focus on the stormwater quality. And as you know, this, in early 2016, the Water Board issued a permit that require all of the jurisdiction and cities, counties in the Bay Area to improve the water quality before discharging into the surrounding water bodies. And that permit is now up for renewal. So we are looking at another permit, a new permit coming up in June next year. And with that permit, it's likely the city will have to implement and deliver more projects related to clean water. So we'll talk a little bit more about those projects in the next slides. And also in a parallel effort, we also focus on the master planning where we do the capacity modeling, assess the condition and capacity of the system, and try to make sure that we have enough capacity for existing condition as well as future development. And also we focus on improvement and rehabilitation of our existing system. Make sure we can maximize the lifetime and the service of those systems. River Oak stormwater capture projects. This is one example of the clean water project that we put together. This project is part of the GSI plan that was approved by City Council. The project is estimated to be at about $9 or $10 million total cost. It will be funded by Measure T. And we are working with the Department of Water Resources to apply for a grant. So this project, we will convert the existing facility from detention basin into a biofiltration facility. And we also have some part components on it. So we are in the early phase of the design phase right now, with construction will take place late next year into 2023 and completion in late 23, early 24. Talking about master planning, so we also focus on assessing the capacity of our system, and in the past we complete the the preliminary master planning phase, where we put together a model of the city showing all of the pipeline with information from pipelines of 24-inch and larger. And at the end of that effort, we identify a series of high priority projects. And then with the flood in 2017, we were able to work with Valley Water and obtain their riverine models and incorporate that information into our model. And so now we have a more refined model in our hands. Staff is working on trying to finish up that refined modeling. And we have a few areas complete already, and we plan to complete the rest within the next 1 to 2 years. Charcot area system improvement. So this is an example of a project that come out from the master planning effort. This area basically is bounded on the east side by Coyote Creek and on the west side by Guadalupe. This is a low area, and right now all of the runoff is draining toward Coyote, and the area is prone for local flooding in the past. So with master planning evaluation, we were able to think of, split the flow, and instead of building a new pump station on Coyote Creek, we can split the flow and redirect some of that flow toward Guadalupe River and take advantage of the existing pump station over there that has extra capacity. So we can just reflow everything to the west. So again, the project is in the preliminary phase right now, and with design completion anticipated in 2023, and it take the whole year 2024 to build this project. Large trash capture. This is the types of a project that we put together to address the requirements from the regional water permit. So in the past, we were able to complete 6 phases of the project, and we built a total of 32 large trash capture devices in the city. And with the new requirements that coming next year, likely we'll have to build several more phases, with phase 7 being in the early design phase right now. And we identify a total of 6 locations, and staff is working with Caltrain right now to apply for a grant so we can pay for this project, phase 7. So besides all of the CIP and maintenance effort, we also pay attention to like the winter storm. So I want to recognize DOT staff spending a lot of time out there and make sure that our facility is clean and getting ready for the storm season. Apparently we had a storm in October, and everything went okay. We didn't see any major incident. And yeah, we're working with Valley Water just to exchange information and make sure that we are ahead of the curve whenever possible. Now let's switch over to sanitary sewer system. So the key initiative, we focus on 3 major items. We focus on capacity, condition assessment, and also system improvement and rehabilitation. So overall goal is to reduce the sanitary sewer overflow. And also we want to make sure that we have enough capacity for existing and also future GP 2040. And we want to make sure that we meet all of the requirements from the regulatory requirements agency, sorry. One thing that I want to highlight here is as of June last year, we were able to complete 100% of our condition assessment on smaller size pipes in the system. This is about 85% of the entire city collection system. And this is the most vulnerable group of pipelines when it comes to damage and SSO. But now we complete the cleaning and we complete the CCTV, so the pipes are cleaner, and we were able to know the condition of those pipes, and we can prioritize the repair and rehabilitation of those pipes. So that's a good milestone to reach. Here's another look at the SSO data over the years. And the condition assessment was initiated 10 years ago. And we work closely with DOT and also ESD. We try to improve our program and reduce the SSO level. So it went from 192 back then to now to about 35 SSO during last fiscal year. So this is a huge improvement and a big drop in our SSO numbers. So with that, overall, the goal for both sanitary and storm sewer programs are that we want to make sure that we are always ahead of the curve. We will be able to to meet the capacity demand and support economic development. And at the same time, we try to increase our investment into our system so that we can reduce or address infrastructure backlogs. And also we prioritize our capital improvement program so that we can lower our operational costs, ensure capacity, and also prevent SSO. And lastly, improve our system reliability. So that is the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm open for any questions or comments you may have. Thank you.
You. We will go to members of the public first. First up is Paul Soto.
Thank you, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Thank you for the presentation. There's 400,000 people slated. This is just fact, so we don't have to act like it's not going to happen. There's 400,000 people that are planned from around the world, not from here. They're not from, probably not even from California, okay, that are going to be coming here to San Jose. Okay, now with that said, what are you doing within the context of your purview to accommodate that? Because that's going to be a lot of excessive, that's 40% of the population right now. And one of the things that really pains me is that we are actually spending billions, and I mean billions of dollars. I went to that BTA meeting. That was the most obscene amount of money that I have ever heard spoken about so cavalierly. And so with respect to infrastructure, we are spending these billions of dollars to accommodate people that are not even citizens of this city yet. There's a problem there. And then you're going to say that you're inserting equity into these grants that you're getting to install an infrastructure that is not going to be for the abuelitas, man. You know, I respect Councilwoman Foley for bringing up that element in terms of there are going to be people, we're not going to go to these new technologies. We're not going to use these new systems. So there has to be a kind of like like a blending in point to where it's still able to accommodate the OGs and the people that are from one particular cohort, and and of course accommodate the younger crowd, because the people that are going to be coming are like, I don't know, between 10 and 35.
Thank you. Next speaker is Blair Beekman.
Hi. That was a new take from Paul I haven't heard before. Thank you for that. For myself, I guess first a thank you on the previous item. There's a really interesting final presenter talking about issues of equity. I'm sorry I got a little upset. I think she offered an interesting presentation with interesting questions, and I tried to answer them. I'm sorry that I grew a little impatient. It's kind of sad, but good luck how we can work on these issues. For these sewer issues, yearly report about sewer issues. I think, we've been really hurting from, all the years from the flood issues. We're trying to rebuild, and I'm trying to help contribute in my own way to the future planning so we can be prepared for these sort of disasters in the future. I know the city of San Jose is doing an incredible job how to do that. And, they're inviting, committee meetings to talk about the future of natural disaster issues. And to thank Dev Davis, earlier, for noting, there's different ways I can talk about natural disaster preparedness planning, and I'm learning how to do that. I don't want to be alarmist. I just want to learn how it can be important that we integrate natural disaster practices into our regular committee meeting process. And I think it can be a great tool towards the ideas of equity and reimagine. And it helps that process really interestingly. So I'm trying to learn how to talk more in those terms. So thanks for this item. I think that helps in that process. We're trying to learn and work through and understand better how it can be more open. So thanks for this item.
Thank you. Next speaker is call-in user 1.
Yeah, I hope this city has done its due diligence in clearing the streams, the storm drains, the rivers, the creeks, because it's going to come. The rain's going to come one of these days. We don't know when, but it always does. And then we have floods and backed up sewers. But, with all this drought, this should all have been cleaned out. So I'm really hoping that this city has done its due diligence. Now, this is a city that can't even have a fountain running at the Rose Garden. Dev, are you listening? Okay, I mean, how long has the fountain been there? 100 years? It's always broken. I mean, you think you would have got the pump right in the first place. I mean, it's a nice fountain, even though it looks like it was donated from the former Soviet Union. Did Joe Stalin send the Rose Garden that day? I mean, come on. I mean, it seems Soviet. It's broken all the time, but it's a joke. You guys can't run a fountain. I just hope to God when the big rains come that we're not going to have the flooding like we did before. Remember that the people are just getting paid, by the way, too. How many years is it going to take? And we had a wonderful businessman here in San Jose. I forget his name. Forgive me, gave a lot of money. Where did that all go? Nobody knows. I think it went in the same safe as the pot tax money or something. You guys like to take a bunch of money and stuff it in the safe down at the police department for safekeeping for you people. It's unbelievable how you can go through money. Only children and women can be irresponsible, but man, even the guys on the city council are. It's unbelievable how irresponsible this city is with money, with planning, with infrastructure, and everything else. You guys, I can't say it enough. This city.
Thank you. Turning back to my colleagues.
Move to accept the report.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the committee? Matthew, thank you. And I just want to say for the record, I know you're not in charge of the fountain at the Rose Garden, which is very old and requires daily maintenance. and the pump needs to be reordered on a regular basis and is currently back ordered because of supply chain issues. I think we're ready for the vote.
Esparza,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4, San Jose Clean Operational Update, Clean Energy, it should say, Operational Update and Strategic Framework Plan. Lori?
Hi, council members. Good afternoon. I'm Lori Mitchell, and I'm the Director of Community Energy. And today I'm joined by Zach Strike, who is our Assistant Director. So this item is our operational update and our strategic plan framework. In the fall of this year, we worked with Deloitte to put together this strategic plan framework, which is attached to the memo. The focus of their work was really focused on 3 things. Number 1 is they looked back and looked at our actual performance as compared to the 2017 business plan, which council approved when they formed San Jose Clean Energy. So a lot of good information there in terms of what went well and what was challenging. And then we also had them look out, what are some expected opportunities and challenges over the next few years, as well as looking at what are some market and industry trends that we should be aware of to improve our performance. So next slide. So first of all, just taking a quick look at the 2017 performance or the 2017 plan and our actual performance. Some of the key takeaways from the report are that in terms of things that went better than expected, we continue to have higher than expected customer participation in the program. So that's great. We have some of the lowest opt-out rates of any CCA. So that all went well. In terms of our revenues in 2019 and 2020, that went as expected as well. Although we definitely note in 2021, things became much more challenging, mostly because of the large increase in the PCIA. In terms of also some good news of what went well and according to plan is that we were able to provide more renewable power than PG&E, and we reduced more greenhouse gas emissions than expected. So those are some good accomplishments of the team. Some other comments by Deloitte, they also noted that the analysis and the recommendations from that 2017 business plan were reasonable, especially given the regulatory and market information that was available at the time. But it's important to note that there were large regulatory changes that happened after that plan was completed. And one of the most notable is how the PCIA, that power charge indifference adjustment, is calculated. So at the end of 2018, when we were in the first year of our launch, the Public Utilities Commission changed the methodology fundamentally on how the PCIA is calculated and changed it to really being based on short-term wholesale market prices. And so we knew that that would be challenging when it happened, but I think it would have been very hard to predict, what actually the impact of that methodology change, what actually happened in both 2020 and 2021. Certainly that caused our financial position to suffer given the unprecedented increases that we saw in that PCIA. They also noted because of that, the 2017 plan underestimated these extreme outcomes. So the worst case scenario that was projected was definitely less than what was realized. And so they recommend in the future we perform much more rigorous stress testing of all of these possible risks. And then finally, they did recommend that we add staff that's focused on risk management and power supply. So next slide. So you can see here, this is a great visual of actuals versus the projected PCIA in that 2017 plan. So in the figure on the left, that blue line was the low case for the 2017 plan. So starting out with a PCIA of about $25 a megawatt hour, and it's slowly lowering over time. The worst case scenario is the gold line. So that was the high case for the PCIA, again, starting at about $25 and inching up, but still below $30 a megawatt hour. And, you know, at the time that seemed very reasonable. However, you can see what happened are the actuals, and that's that gray line where even in 2019, we were above the worst case, but still somewhat manageable. 2020, it went up further. And then you can see in 2021, the very large increase that we've had all of this year. And so that, of course, has challenged our revenues and our reserves. So you can see at the graph on the right, the blue line is our actuals, and then the gold and the dark blue are the scenarios in the plan. And you can see we were on track, you know, about within plan in 2018 and 19 in terms of building our reserves. And then in 2020, that large growth in the PCIA started to negatively impact us. And then of course, in 2021, caused us to need to borrow from the commercial paper program. So next slide. So in terms of what is our financial outlook for the next year, some good news here. So we do predict that our financial outlook is improving in 2022. So first this summer, you know, if you recall back in June before council, we were somewhat concerned about power prices over the summer just because the forwards were very high. Fortunately, the summer of 2021, we did see high prices, but nothing higher than what we had planned. So that's good news. In terms of what we have borrowed from the commercial paper program, we've currently borrowed $41 million through October, and that is slightly below what we forecast, but just about what we had forecast in June. It's important to note, though, that we do expect to get to about $75 million by the end of February. So still needing to borrow from commercial paper to cover our costs. In terms of what will change in 2022, so PG&E has filed to increase their rates and also reduce the PCIA, so that's good news. And that's really because power prices have been high. And as we all know, the PCIA is meant to collect revenue to cover PG&E's above market costs for their portfolio. And those costs are lower because they're able to sell it at higher prices in the market. So they have filed to increase their generation rates by up to 35%. And PCIA, they have filed to reduce it by 75%. So substantial changes there. And you can see that in the bars on the right of, you know, today in 2021, we are living with a very large PCIA and pretty small gen rate. And so that's negatively impacting our revenues. In 2022, you can see the bar, there's a projected decrease in the PCIA, which helps us, and then an increase in that generation rate, which will help our competitiveness with PG&E. The commission typically decides and approves these rates in December, but they have asked for more information from PG&E on their generation rate increase, and they have moved the decision date till January. So we expect to have a lot more clarity after that January Public Utilities Commission decision. So we'll keep you updated on that. It's also important to note that we are bringing forward a staff recommendation for our 2022 rates and power mix. next week on December 14th. We are recommending that we set interim rates for 2022 higher so that we stop borrowing from the commercial paper program. Those rates will result in an over 12% bill increase for the average residential customers. And then once PG&E changes their rates, we will go back to our maintaining our current rate structure. Also important to note that we will continue to offer green value, which is priced at the same as PG&E, as well as Total Green, which is our 100% renewable program, which is priced at a parity. And then care rates will also remain at the same price as PG&E's. So next slide. So with this, I'm going to turn it over to Zach Strike, and he's going to talk about some of the industry trends.
Good afternoon, Zach Strike, Assistant Director in Community Energy Department. Lori just talked very well about the PCIA for 2022. You see on the left side here, the big drop from 2021 to 2022. And this graph is meant to show the sensitivity of the PCIA in future years to changes in what we call the brown power, just conventional power pricing, as well as, and then the dotted lines are changes in the market price benchmark for resource adequacy, which is a sort of a capacity product that we and all other load serving entities have to purchase. So there's a definite whipsaw of low in 2022 and shooting back up to some degree in 2023 in almost any circumstance. And so we're planning for that. But the trend, as you see in the out years, is going down. And although many variables and sort of things that can change, the story there is that two things. Basically, the PCIA resources that PG&E has are going away. So the big one in 2024 and 2025 is Diablo Canyon, and some of their gas plants or gas purchase agreements that are above market today begin to roll off. And so the total portfolio, which is affected by the PCIA, is getting smaller, and that slowly brings the PCIA down again. On the right side, it's a similar story that the upshoot in 2022 for generation rate followed by an expected drop. So there's a one-time recovery of fees due to unanticipated costs to PG&E from 2021 as well as 2022, and then a general sort of stabilization. Next slide. Going forward, unfortunately, prices are expected to be high and volatile. That's due to some of the retirements that I just mentioned in the California fleet of natural gas plants, as well as Diablo Canyon. Additionally, the drought in the West, not just California, but the Pacific Northwest, has sharply reduced the amount of hydropower available in this state, and for export from the Northwest, which has caused more reliance on the natural gas, and that's caused a squeeze and higher prices that we've seen. That's exacerbated by the nationwide story, current shortage of storage of natural gas that is expected to normalize a bit in the forward years, but it's a squeeze right now. And summer peak demand in general is expected to increase as more air conditioning installed due to increasing temperatures. Next slide. So part of Deloitte's report was to give us some update on what's coming, trends in renewable and storage technologies, a well-publicized explosion expected for lithium-ion batteries, that form of battery storage. That's well over 90% of the battery technology that's available today. It's proven, and the prices are coming down as it scales. pumped storage is the original storage technology that's been out there, where you basically use excess energy to pump water uphill and let it flow downhill and generate power when needed. There's not going to be a lot more of that, we don't think, but some of that, it's proven technology. It's just a challenge to site it. Compressed air energy storage is also an option, but requires some, historically has been used in only in where geologic conditions have allowed, where storing the air in, say, like a salt cavern. If you store it in tanks, that's definitely less cost competitive today, but as the technology scales, that's a possibility. Really interesting, and a lot of buzz about longer duration batteries, so different battery chemistries that would allow for storage for more than 8 hours, sometimes multiple days. That technology would be much welcomed, and there's a tremendous amount of research on it, a number of pilot technologies going, and it's a work in progress, but we're all very excited about it. And then green hydrogen, as you may know, green hydrogen, and there's a lot of different colors of hydrogen today, won't get into, but green hydrogen is when renewable energy is used to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And that's one way to store to use excess, for example, solar energy in the middle of the day when we have this duck curve belly problem. And then the hydrogen can be burned later in the day when needed. So tremendous potential there as well. Next slide. And one more. So we asked Deloitte for what's going on in California, what are similar organizations doing for their clean energy goals. I think most of the council is aware that there are state mandated targets for 100%, getting to 100% clean energy in 2045. A number of CCAs are going faster than that. And we think it makes sense and are happy to go along with the council's recently adopted 2030 goal of being 100% carbon neutral. We plan to work on what interim goals, interim steps between now and then, and we'll bring to council for consideration as part of our biannual, that is every other year, integrated resource planning exercise. So that's a big submission we have to do to the PUC in the middle of next year. And so that schedules out what we plan to do over many years. So that's coming. Next slide. Deloitte had a number of recommendations for us. Sorry, Councilmember Cohen, would you like to, is that a question now?
No, I was just putting up my hand for later. Go ahead.
Got it. Sorry. So for regarding for San Jose Clean Energy to enhance financial stability, Lori mentioned, I think, cost of service rates. Cost of service, that is to say, setting our rates more explicitly based on what it costs us to serve customers. And as opposed to being explicitly tied to a fixed percentage to PG&E at all times. So by doing so, it's a chance to reduce our volatility and also to set rates at the time that makes sense for us to set rates in a more predictable fashion, providing long-term value and hopefully simplification for customer experience. Additionally, there was a lot of discussion in the report about managing on the supply side our weather-related load increases. So San Jose, a characteristic of our territory is that the electrical load required by customers is really different when the temperature is 89 than it is when it's 95, quite significantly. And so it's hard to know which days are going to be the expensive days. You know, there are going to be a couple, but how do we, what are the ways to manage that on the supply and cost effectively? So looking at things like weather derivatives, weather insurance, financial options as permitted by city rules, regulations, and policies, as well as other risk management and monitoring tools. On the demand side also, they had a number of suggestions for things for us to explore. So shaping when customers need to use the energy, using things like demand response or more battery storage, more explicitly, for example, aggregating, for example, batteries sited at customer sites and being able to call on those when we need them. So it's sort of a shared savings approach with customers, as well as rooftop solar and battery storage. In addition to time of use rates, using those more widely and more having sort of sharper incentives around peak versus non-peak timing. Next slide. Additionally, on the power procurement side, using more refined and more involved scenario analysis, we're excited. We've invested in using a new platform by a company called Sequant, which sort of portfolio optimization and a risk tool. So that, as well as buying forward potentially, as makes sense, a little bit more further into the future. Generally, prices are more stable further out and less subject to short-term disruptions that we've seen a lot in the last couple of years. And the last one is there are some CCAs have formed a joint powers association authority, joint powers authority, and that is using a tool to prepay for longer-term contracts, and by doing so, through a series of financial transactions with intermediaries, ultimately reducing costs significantly. This is a tool that's been around and used by municipal utilities, electric and gas, I believe, since the early 1990s. So more to come in that exploration. Next slide. And then, so that was on the financial stability side in terms of, and on the side of organizational effectiveness. So as we move out of startup phase, and again, as a reminder, we've been in operation less than 3 full years. As we move into a more mature phase, doing more to document processes and our financial monitoring, financial reporting, and more systematize how we share and approve reports, both with our risk operating committee and then throughout the organization, as well as perhaps add on the risk operating committee or the ROC agenda topics more regularly to get the ROC more familiar with the market, the power market, and credit risks and what's coming. Additionally, to take more financial controls, some more controls on our financial model and who has access to change which key inputs and the cadence on which those are all input. So when we look at something at the end of the month, we have absolute certainty as to what exactly we're looking at, what updates as of which, for which parameters by which date. And also just upgrading how we manage contracts and get them approved and monitor expiration dates, things like that. And a few staffing increases on the risk management side, policy, and several other places. Next slide. And I'm going to hand back to Lori for the last couple of slides.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. So it's important to note that in addition to the Deloitte report, there's several other reports included with this item. We worked very closely with the finance team, and so there are 2 years of audited financials, as well as a memo summarizing that. And then finally, we also worked with finance and the auditor's office on an agreed procedures audit. And so that audit looked at how well we are in compliance with our energy risk management regulations. So really important work there, and the findings of that report have helped us make some process improvements that will improve our performance. It's important to note that where there were findings and deviations noted, that was usually the case for both fiscal years because we completed these audits over almost the same time frame. So there wasn't really an opportunity for the department to improve in between them. So next slide. So just a couple of the key findings of the audit with deviations. The first one was that our minimum coverage ratios were not met for specific periods and sometimes not reported for those periods. And what the coverage ratio is how much power we have procured as a percentage of our load. So it's a really important metric. Some of the reasons for this include some issues that just need to be cleaned up in the recommendations, that some of those targets were just not possible given that we were still in startup and building the portfolio. As an example, there's no requirement to be 40% procured in the later years, but obviously we started from zero when we first launched the department. Also, that 40% doesn't have an end date, so technically we're out of compliance with that. So that's some stuff that we need to clean up. It's also important to note that our actual coverage ratio will always change due to a variety of market factors. So it includes market conditions, weather, as Zach noted, as well as just changes in customer behavior. And one, particularly market condition to note is that in the spring of 2020, we changed our strategy in relation to our coverage ratio due to the pandemic. So we knew that our load was going to decrease, and we made a decision and briefed the ROC in the summer of 2020 to have a lower coverage ratio due to that market condition. But we're continuing to develop standard procedures on the reporting and documentation, as Zach discussed, as we move from those startup operations into more stable operations to make sure that we always meet those coverage ratios. Another finding was that they were unable to verify that the city attorney's office approved several selected short-term power purchase agreements and confirmations. So it's important to note that the attorney's office and our outside counsel draft and negotiate all of our master agreements and our confirmations, but some confirmations did not include the city attorney's signature as to form. So we've improved this process. So in December of 2020, we actually changed our process to ensure that the city attorney's office signs off on all of our short-term and our long-term power purchase agreements. And then finally, one of the other key findings is that there was insufficient documentation on competitive bidding for some of our transactions. Important to note that competitive bidding was utilized, but that we need to improve our procedures on documentation and centralized storage of that information. So really appreciate the work of the auditor's office as well as the finance team. Both of these audits will really help the department improve in the future. So next slide. With that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Go to members of the public first. Paul Soto.
Yes, Paul Soto from Horseshoe. Thank you for the report. It still fascinates me how you can say so much and use so many words and say absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing of any substance. The only thing you need the secret decoder ring to be able to decipher what it is that you're actually saying. So only people that are privy to what actually goes on in those departments is going to really actually know what you said, and that's a problem. As a citizen, that's a problem. The subsidies that are going to be absolutely necessary for all of the east side, and the installation, which I believe is the reason why this clean energy chingadera was invented, because they're going to have to be installed in every single one of those houses. The entire, all the city's going to be electrified, and so the increase in the costs that are going to be passed on to, of course, Mexicans, Latinos, the ones been bearing the costs. That's going to be happening. So that, I don't know if it's appropriate to talk now about it or later, but it definitely needs to be talked about. Let me see. I wanted to be able to, I'm gonna lose it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Blair Beekman.
Hi, thanks a lot for this item. I've been attending Community Energy Commission meetings since 2018, and I have a little bit of a bit of experience and such. What I can't say here, I have a lot of feelings at this time. It was not mentioned. We're dealing with serious weird issues of PG&E. They're going loopy again. Why wasn't that talked about? I mean, it's an issue I think we're all behind. We're trying to ask PG&E to not go for these massive solar rate increases in the next year. They'll be bringing that up this week at the CPUC. Why wasn't that talked about? We're seriously against it here in San Jose, I think. The fact that you're going to be raising rates for the next few months, at least it sounds like, and if the gamble works, the PG&E will do certain things so you can bring down rates again, sounds odd. It is not conducive to kind of the renewable future that's really possible that we have to build with PG&E. We have to learn to invite PG&E to this cooperative renewable process and not make things difficult. You could have talked today that as this rate increases will be happening strangely, that you could be offering subsidies to ourselves as local community persons that can really help out. They have to be talked about. 10% rate increases is high. We got to talk about the subsidy process and how this whole process can be more accessible for ourselves, even with your loan situations that you have to deal with. Yeah, I know you guys want to work on these things. This was a really disappointing lecture today. I'm really hurt by it. We got to take on PG&E. We can address the future of renewables. We can prepare for 2023 as a year of important changes for our good. It's not, dismal possibly as I've made it out to be. It could be the beginning of a really important good future. Let's start doing this stuff now, the good stuff. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker is Brian.
Hi, thank you for the report. A lot of work went into it, I can tell. I agree with what Mr. Beekman and the other gentleman had to say. I do think you folks are trying. I wanted to bring up, and this is far afield, but they finally developed a fusion reaction that actually generates more power than is initially put into it, which is a big deal for fusion. I don't think that'll ever get built out here, but if we ever hit the trifecta with cold fusion, I think energy problems won't even be an issue. We'll be in the stars, and I hopefully kids live to see that, because it would be a game changer for this planet. It really would. We don't need to think outside the box. We need to get rid of the box, because we're in really dire straits with. Another thing Mr. Beekman brought up was the CPUC, the California Public Utilities Commission. It's got to be one of the most inefficient ways of running. I was going to say corrupt, but I can't say that and be honest with myself, because I don't know if they are. But it appears that way a lot of times in their dealings with PG&E and the many things PG&E has done. I think the report tried to address some of that. They didn't really discuss the Public Utilities Commission, and I think you should bring PG&E on this. Maybe a lot of us who can't stand PG&E would understand really what they're going through, and we would be a little more amiable, because it's not all a big conspiracy, but it sure seems like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is calling user 1.
Oh, renewable energy, mass transit. It sounds so sexy. It's not. Bad electrical grid already. PG&E hasn't put any money into this area to fix anything. And now all of a sudden, we're going to have renewable energy. I saw how the renewables worked this summer during one of your city council meetings when the power went out. I was looking for, I thought the unicorn was going to show up and turn it back on, but it didn't. But no, you're not going. People are putting solar panels on their houses everywhere, which is an eyesore. This is coming from a city where if you have a flagpole an inch too high, it's considered something bad. But hey, put those solar panels on your house that completely make the neighborhood look ugly. Hey, it's not my power bill. Put them on your roof. I don't care. but they are ugly. And now all of a sudden, you guys think you're going to have a solar farm and wind and everything else. It doesn't work. I lived in Europe for almost a decade. The solar is a disaster. The wind was a disaster. They thought that they were going to have all these magical things happen, and they didn't. They had to go back to using other energies, including nuclear. You're a fool to think that it's going to work. And the CPUC is corrupt. I can say it. I just did. They don't do anything for the consumer. It's bad for business. It's bad for the residents. It's bad for ratepayers. Now we have natural gas prices going up, and in the future we won't even have natural gas. We're all going to be on this bad electrical grid with these renewable energy resources powered by unicorns, right? And I think that this city council is so irresponsible to think that all these things are going to be good. They are not. You're the most irresponsible group of people I've ever seen legislate anything. You guys almost make.
All right. Back to my council colleagues. Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to thank staff for this report. And somebody mentioned that this has only been an endeavor for 3 years. So I want to first start by saying it's really impressive how far we've come and how well we're doing meeting our objectives. And it's a lot of work, I know. So I'm proud of the place that we're in as far as our clean energy, the work we have for San Jose Clean Energy. So I want to thank you for that. I do have a few questions. First, Zach, this is more of just a technical curiosity question, but I saw a presentation earlier this year about storage technologies. Saw some interesting additional technologies that you didn't mention, and I don't know how far along they are, if they're more conceptual. There's, in addition to gravity water feed, there's also this idea of gravity concrete blocks that get raised during the day and then lower at night. Are any people starting to use technologies like that? Yes,
Lori, I'll correct me if I'm wrong. I would say they're in sort of large pilot stage. That company, and there's probably more than one, but there's a significant one in California. They're bidding on projects. I don't know if anyone has sort of taken the plunge to be the off-taker for the big one yet, but there's definitely a lot of interest in that, and some sort of gravity thing would seem to make sense. And there's other versions of that. There's train, a train running downhill. Right. Yeah. So yes, Lori, you want to add anything?
No, that's correct. I would characterize it as an emerging technology. The only thing that I would add is, through CC Power, we are looking at a project like that. As Zach mentioned, it's very much an emerging technology, but in concept, not a lot different than pumped hydro, right? Which is also relying on gravity to move water downhill. So, I expect that there will be more of that in the future. And it's certainly something we're continuing to monitor and keep our eye on. We all know that storage is definitely going to be needed as we transition to our carbon-free future.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny that you refer to it as emerging technology, because what I love about it is that it's really old technology, right? It's gravity and blocks. I mean, it's actually pretty amazing to me how simple it is, and how it's almost a brilliant idea, but yet something that could have been done hundreds of years ago. So I like it for that reason. There's also some cities that are using underground thermal storage. I'm not sure if it works in a place with our weather cycles, but they heat water in the summer, keep it underground, it stays cold, it stays hot, and then they can use it to heat as for heating sources in the winter. Not sure whether anything like that is possible in our area, or and what's interesting about that is you can do it underneath the city. You don't have to have big open space to do it.
Yeah, you're definitely right. There's a lot of district systems, both in California and all across the United States, and definitely there probably are some opportunities to take advantage of that, especially as new infrastructure is built and we want to get off of natural gas. I would characterize that as more of a customer-sided opportunity, just like solar and storage on certain rooftops. There might be opportunities to offer district energy here in the city as well, but it's a very good point.
Good, thanks. this is where I sort of throw in my usual caveat that I always mention about, our attempt to get to fully renewable and by 2030. And I know we would never intentionally do anything other than anything towards what I'm suggesting, except that reaching renewable at the expense of other jurisdictions being able to go renewable isn't really the goal. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that's what we're doing, but I like to think holistically, because we're going to solve this problem by the entire state and country going renewable. And if we're saying, well, we got this source out in New Mexico and we're using their energy to be green here, but that means someone else doesn't have the opportunity to use it there, we haven't solved the problem. So I always just want to keep that in mind every time we have this conversation, that we got to be building more capacity and not, taking capacity from other places. But I'm excited that there's a recommendation there for more localized rooftop solar. I think that it's important for us to have those local sources in addition, and that's partly because of what I just said, that if the more local capacity we have, the less we have to take from these other sites, which can be used elsewhere then. And we have such a sunny city that it makes sense for us to do local rooftop solar here. I do want to thank Blair for mentioning the concern we have that the state CPUC and other discussions that are happening about eliminate or ending net metering for solar, which is something being done at the behest of PG&E, but wouldn't be good for customers or for our environment. So I'm hopeful that maybe this is something that our city should take up as a policy position. I've certainly joined the lobbying effort to try to defeat that effort. Is our city looking into that issue?
Yeah, it's a really good point, and I'd really like to note, both for you and for the public, that we have advocated very strongly as San Jose Clean Energy in favor of net metering. We recognize that's a really important initiative for us to meet our climate goals. So we have sent letters as San Jose Clean Energy advocating to preserve net metering, and we've also worked very closely with our mayor's office and coordinated with other cities in that advocacy. So although wasn't part of the topic area of this report, it's something that is very, very important to us, and we have spent a considerable amount of time on.
Good, thanks. And the last question about staffing. So you talked about needing more staffing, clean energy. The staffing positions are paid for out of the program itself, right? Through rates. So,
right.
The number of staffing obviously will be based on what the program can support. And so I just want to also kind of maybe get that point across, that this will be a separate discussion from other city staffing discussions, which come out of the general fund, right?
Right. The intention is for San Jose Clean Energy to be an enterprise function and solely rely on our own revenue. So all staffing is currently funded through those revenues, although we have, taken commercial paper loans from the city that we are working on, rate recommendations to allow us to pay that back. But all of our operating expenses are funded through our rate revenues, not through the general fund.
Okay.
And staffing in our department is the same process as the rest of the city departments and the fiscal budget process and so forth.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. I'll move the acceptance of the report.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? All right, I think we're ready for the vote.
Esparza?
Yes.
Foley?
Aye.
Perales?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our agenda. We'll move on to open forum. Blair?
Hi, thank you. Thanks for the final words from Lori. I know that her feelings of how she would want to work on net metering issues, and PG&E is doing something weird again, and I think I know why they're doing it, but it's practices that it's typical PG&E, and we have to be considering more cooperative ways to ease them out and transition themselves as the major power player for the state, and how we transition that to local communities, it can be a much softer cooperative process. And they're doing it so rigid and capitalistic and competitive, and people are going to die basically from doing this that, you know, it's terrible. It's typical PG&E, and they really got to learn to change that. And it was important for Lori to talk about it. She explained, thanks. With my remaining time, I wanted to speak about overall technology and open public policy ideas. You know, and with all the new ALPR stuff you guys were talking about last week, with law enforcement issues, we got these new law enforcement crime waves going on. You know, we also have a bunch of 4 and 5G and smart streetlight LED technology. It's got a ton of surveillance and technology already. I think we're starting to realize that, and that it isn't just we get a whole bunch of new ALPRs and that answers everything. There's Vision Zero practices we have to be considering. We have to learn how to talk about those Vision Zero practices clearly and better, because we're having problems talking about Vision Zero clearly right now with KSI statistics. We're learning to do it better, but we are learning. But we're not there yet, and we have to be clear and accountable with ourselves before we go, you know, full off on this new ALPR kick. That I think, you know, there's so much other technology and so many other ways to address these law enforcement concerns directly, to address, you know, these organizational crime units themselves, organizational, you know, mafia groups, whatever. That we can do this in different ways, and it's a number of issues and ways to work. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker is Roland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I wanted to congratulate you on your performance during this morning's Caltrain board meeting, and your success blowing up another $500 million on what you and Ms. Bouchard have essentially turned into an irrelevant and useless piece of junk. After 18 months of 2-hour closed session meetings followed by 1 minute of public comment. I was also impressed to learn that you noticed that roads are more congested than ever on the way to the vet earlier this morning for a dental cleaning for your pooch. Meanwhile, Caltrain is running so many trains that they actually managed to hit the same car twice with 2 different trains, one northbound and one southbound. Now, the only problem is that after a collision, there is a passenger count on the trains. And the passenger count revealed that one of the trains was carrying a grand total of 3 passengers. This is beyond impressive. But now going back to the earlier presentations, the Duradon disk update was beyond overwhelming. I definitely would know how to have other words for that. And the solution to speeding your early morning pooch errands to the vet is clearly to take down Highway 87 and shut down Santa Clara. I mean, this is beyond exciting, and I honestly cannot wait to learn what else you and your staff might come up with in the next year. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and yours, including your pooch. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Paul Soto.
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Thank you for the information, and to you, Councilwoman Davis. When I come to these meetings, I can be a straight up, condescending, arrogant, demanding punk, and you have extended a few courtesies to me that I really appreciate, because I don't really necessarily have those coming from you, but you extended them anyway. And so I want to acknowledge that, and that I appreciate that. Okay, and so, but with respect to batteries, okay, when Ford invented the Model A, he started wars in Panama, Nicaragua, all of these places where there was rubber trees. And so, because he needed the rubber for the cars. So what he did is he started wars down there. Commandeered the United States Army in order to do that. So what we're going to see, even though, you know, oh, clean energy, you know, we're carbon conscious, all that crap, right? Okay, but we're going to be starting wars in other countries for nickel, for cobalt, and what the hell is that other one? There's a third element that is necessary for these batteries. And so as the electric cars accelerate, as the electric batteries accelerate, those are going to run on batteries. And so what that means is wars are going to be started in other countries where those resources are ripe. And so we have to be conscious of that. You know, we could say that, oh, we're, you know, environmentally, you ain't environmentally conscious or aware unless you're Native American. Period. Other than that, you're intellectualizing yourself through those elements. But we knew that trees breathe out oxygen and that the process of photosynthesis existed long before microscopes ever existed. So again, thank you for a good meeting. And again, thank you for extension of the courtesy, Councilwoman Davis.
You're welcome. Next speaker, call-in user 1.
Well, it's nice to know that the fountain is parts are on back order through a supply chain issue. Probably thank our Department of Transportation person, Mayor Pete, who's going to bring us all this wonderful mass transportation to downtown San Jose. I can't wait to see all of this, by the way. But I want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah. Today's the last day for Hanukkah. Light those candles, people. I'm going to light some tonight at my friend's house. I didn't say happy holidays now, did I? I said happy Hanukkah because it's Hanukkah. And when Christmas comes around, I just hope that the city council, San Jose Police Department, et al., will have the class and courtesy to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. You know, it's not happy holidays or whatever you're celebrating. By the way, that's got to be one of the most condescending, rudest things. And that's coming from me. And everybody knows that I'm probably the most impolite caller there is. And if I say it's rude, you really hit rock bottom. And every single one of you has it down at that city council, right? Happy holidays, whatever you're celebrating. No, it's Merry Christmas, okay? And this city has tried to get rid of Christmas. Now, Susan Hammer tried to get rid of the manger through an illegal vote on a Saturday morning. And good old San Jose PD, man, they followed that illegal order like they always do. Took the manger out, had to put it back. Why? Because you people get paid on Christmas. You don't get paid for happy holidays now, do you? You get extra money or overtime if you work at the city because of Christmas, not a happy holiday. So if you want to continue using happy holidays, I'd like to see you at your desks on Christmas morning working without a holiday pay, just straight time, no overtime. If you don't have the decency to say Merry Christmas.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting for today. Our meeting is adjourned.